Customer brought in an American Tactical Bulldog semi-automatic bullpup shotgun in 20 gauge. Serial number on this one is 20 21-2743. Today we're going to demonstrate the field stripping and reassembly of this shotgun. First thing we want to do is pull the charging handle to the rear, open up the action, and check and make sure we are unloaded. Remove the magazine, and then let the bolt ride forward. So there's 3 pins holding the upper and lower together, and the rear pin is under this cheek rest, so we need to remove the cheek rest. Just turn off the nut on the right side, and then the screw will drop loose. And then you need to spread out the plastic, and then it'll pull right off. All right, so now we push in on these 3 pins, and like an AR-15, you can grab onto the head and pull on it, and they are captured pins. And once you have all 3 of those pins pulled out, the upper and lower will simply separate. Now, I don't recommend disassembling the lower receiver any farther from here. Of course, it's possible. If you have any problems, I would suggest contacting a gunsmith. All right, to disassemble the upper receiver, the first thing we're going to do is remove this barrel shroud. Now, this is just on hand tight, so we just turn it lefty-loosey, and it comes right off. Now, under that shroud, there's a thick aluminum plate, and this can certainly be a little bit difficult to grab since there's no access to it, but if you just tap your barrel into your work surface, that plate should just drop free. If it doesn't, it could be carbon buildup or just dry and seized. So now we got to get this foregrip assembly off, and to do that we use our Allen wrench. Now, these screws don't need to be removed. You just need to loosen it a half a turn. And once those are loosened, the upper, or the handguard rather, will slide right off of the barrel assembly. Now, this seems like a standard AR-15 charging handle, but in order to remove it completely from the foregrip, you need to remove these 2 screws here. Again, I don't recommend disassembling this any farther unless there's a problem or significant buildup that's causing an issue. Otherwise, a gun scrubber would be adequate for cleaning that. And the same with the lower receiver, just using an aerosol spray. And when you do that, hold the receiver upside down and spray into the receiver so gravity pulls any carbon buildup or debris out from the receiver and doesn't push it deeper into hidden channels inside the receiver. All right, so the next part we need to do is loosen this nut, and this is on hand tight, just like the barrel shroud. And in order to remove this completely from the barrel, we need to go through this other set of threads. So you just push into it lightly, catch the thread, and thread all the way through it. All right. Now here's the gas piston. And these two parts come apart, separate. So when cleaning, you're going to have a lot of carbon buildup on these two parts, so much so that they might be seized together. Soaking these in a degreaser or even Simple Green, a solution of Simple Green and water together. Just be careful not to leave these parts sitting in a Simple Green solution overnight because they will corrode. Now, to remove the barrel from the receiver and get access to the bolt assembly, we need this wrench. And again, this is on hand tight, so you shouldn't need a vise. However, once you've been shooting this gun, putting the barrel in a vise may be necessary. Just be careful not to damage your threads here. So it's a good idea to use a rubber vise jaw to clamp down on a part like this. So you take your wrench, engage it in one of these holes, and there, that turned off really easily. You don't need to wrench down on these threads. Hand tight is adequate. And once you have this nut pulled away from the threads all the way, the bolt assembly and barrel will pull away from the upper receiver. And then to disassemble this assembly, you want to push forward on your carriage assembly, and then it will simply slide right off the end of the barrel. Here's your recoil spring. There's a little ring that sits below the recoil spring. Here's your barrel nut and your bolt. Now, to disassemble your bolt, it's very simple. You've got a pin here for your firing pin and a pin here for your extractor. Unless this is very, very dirty and seized up, I don't recommend disassembling it any further. If you do, the extractor pin must be driven out from the bottom, going to the top, out. And the firing pin, retaining pin, must be driven out from the top, going out through the bottom.